Yo, it's good. It's Young Honey. It's kind of rainy outside, so I'm going to read some scary stories. I hope you enjoy. If you do, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. I work for a power company restoring power after a storm. Was working when a lady came up complaining that her power went out. We explained to her that's why we were there, and she should have power back soon. She said, "Oh good, my son went down in the basement and now I can't find him." I went with her with a flashlight down the road to a rundown house that was partially caved in. She walked inside and I went to follow. Soon as I walked into the door, she disappeared from my sight and I called for her multiple times. No one responded, so I ran back to our work truck to call for help. A man that was living on the street called her to ask me what's wrong, and I told him the situation. He looked at me with a cold stare and said a mom and her son died in that house 4 years ago. I'm still shook to this day. I don't know if I believe that, but like, that's a Twilight Zone moment. Yo, really quick content warning. This story contains a Zamboni. Heads up. Used to be a supervisor for a janitorial company, and a couple times a week I had to go to a middle school and clean their hallway floors and gymnasium with a Zamboni-type vehicle that mopped and scrubbed to the floor. When I was there, I had the whole school to myself. Used to get finished quickly and go to the library and read while eating my dinner. Well, one morning after being there, I get a call from the school security and they want me to come in. When I get there, I see a police car or two. Uh-oh, I think. They asked me a few questions like, did you notice anything out of the ordinary or strange while you were here last night? No, I hadn't. Usually I have headphones in. Security then shows me camera footage of someone breaking into the school while I was riding the Zamboni not far away. I was there for another 2 hours. Nothing was stolen. But the worst part was they didn't have footage of the other person leaving. They didn't go out the way they came in, and the police had to sweep the entire school. Never did find out what happened with that one. I don't like that. I also just don't like Zambonis. They fucking creep me out, man. My oldest brother used to work the overnight sprinklers on a golf course. He took me out one time just for fun, and as we were driving uphill on a fairway, a figure of a lady appeared in the headlights on top of the hill. My brother steered a little to the left of her and kept driving right on by. I stared right into her eyes, and as we drove by, and she stared back. Her eyes glowed like a cat in the night. As soon as we were out of voice range, I asked my brother, "What the hell was that?" He calmly responded, "Yeah, she lives out the golf course and likes to terrorize the workers from time to time. I usually see her out here once a week." All right, cool. Cool. I wouldn't like that. Maybe bring her like donuts or coffee or something. That's someone you want to be good with. Not friends with, but like at least good with, you feel me? This coming story takes place in the Florida woods, and I live in Florida and go into the woods twice a day at like sunrise and sunset. So I'm gonna share my story after this because that's also where my shit happened. I used to work out in the woods in Florida a lot. Creepiest thing would be this day we were working near Big Cypress, tromping through the brush all day. At the end of the day, my coworker and I do a quick drive through of some of the property and realize the place was absolutely infested with water moccasins. You don't want to fuck around with those. We had been unknowingly essentially walking around a giant water moccasin pit all day. That one kind of fucked me up. Yeah, I fucking bet it would. I was hiking with my dog one day and we saw like an 8-9 foot long gator with its like stomach like very cleanly like sliced open, like intestines fucking everywhere, dog. I don't know if it was just like an animal. I don't know if it was like a person. It looked like a real clean cut. We just got up and got the fuck out of there. You don't fuck around with Florida woods. You don't fuck around in the woods at all. But water moccasins are fucking terrifying. Jesus. I'm not sure this counts, but I'm a teacher at an urban public school and was at work late grading and getting ready for the next day. Time had kind of flown by, and before I knew it, it was 7 p.m. I start packing up to leave in a building that is, in theory, locked and empty besides me, when our Alice system goes off indicating an armed intruder in the building. I don't like that. I am 1, alone, 2, young, 3, freaked as fuck because I am absolutely not ready to fight a gunman over my lesson plans, nor should you be. I'll book it out of the school and dive into my car, hearing the alarm blaring the entire time. I peel out of the parking lot and can see in my rearview mirror the alarm lights still flashing and debate over going, like never going back. Cause fuck that. Turns out they were doing routine maintenance and didn't send an email out to the teachers. I That's a hard one. That's a hard one. I'd be fighting someone over that. But I'd be mad at myself more than anything, and I think that's why I'd be fighting someone over that.
I want to stop by the food booth and buy a soda.
We were wrapping up for the day in northern Canada. I'm fueling up the side boom. I'm all by myself at this point because I was tired of listening to the laborers whine in the cold, so I told them I would take care of the rest. Think bulldozer with no blade but a giant metal boom on the side that we can use to raise and lower pipe. I'm very grateful for an explanation. I didn't know what that was. It's February, so it's pitch black outside. I keep hearing some weird noises. I can't quite hear it because the pump is too loud. I search around a couple times and see nothing. I get in the truck and take off drive past the front of the side boom to see a cougar sitting on top of a dirt pile 15 feet away. That damn thing was just watching me and probably could have ended me without me even realizing it. I've never seen a cougar in the wild before, and it's hard to understand just how big they are and powerful until you see one up close. That thing leaped off the 6-foot pile and probably didn't touch the ground for 15, 20 feet. Man, what? It's terrifying to think something so big and powerful could just be sitting there deciding if they want to make you dinner. Yes, it fucking is. Holy shit. Also, if you haven't seen a moose compared to a Tesla or other like small to mid-sized car, I would go and look that up. It's good information. You don't want to fuck around with moose either. My parents live pretty far back in the country and have one neighboring house. The neighbors would let their basset hound outside for 10 minutes to use the bathroom every morning. One morning, they let him out, and he didn't come back inside. After a few minutes, they walked out to his favorite bathroom spot and found his head. Judging from the tracks, a mountain lion had ambushed him and apparently tore his head off before carrying the body away. What I thought was the creepiest part was that the family hadn't heard a sound. That's terrifying. Nature is fucking terrifying. Spent a summer doing conservation work out in the middle of nowhere in Wyoming. Was part of a crew that would spend 2 weeks camping in remote places to do manual labor in places machines couldn't get to. For this story, we were building new hiking and biking trails in the back portion of a designated wilderness area in a high-altitude desert. That means the nearest civilization was a 2-hour car ride to a town of 41 people in a sandy soil area where tracks last forever. It was the middle of our stint during the early part of the night when everyone else had gone to bed, but I stayed up to read, so maybe 11:30 or so. Still pitch black outside, clouds had covered stars, so my headlamp was probably the only light on in a 40-mile radius. Suddenly, I hear footsteps walking around our camp and head towards the tents from where I was in the community tent. That sound immediately put me on edge as I felt the hair on my arms raise and my adrenaline spike. I recall thinking to myself that two things are very wrong since the person was not using a light and the footsteps were not coming towards me from the tents. Rather, it was the opposite. Within the 4 seconds it took me to drop my book, get up, and turn the corner of the tent to cast my light on the sleeping tent, the sound has stopped, but I saw tracks in the dirt before me. Looked like they came from one end of camp, looked into my tent, walked through the sleeping tents, and kept going out of the camp again. I don't know if I was making too much noise or not by walking around, but the rest of my crew ended up waking up and asking me what was going on from inside of their tents. After explaining what I found, they all got up to look at boot prints in the dirt. They were damn near perfect copies of my own boots except for one small thing. I had a rock stuck in my treads that messed up the symmetry. I was wearing fairly common work boots, except I also happened to wear a US size 15 double wide boot, so there's no way in hell this was one of the other crew members. I don't think any of us slept much that night. Never saw or heard anything more after that night. Light rain removed the tracks a couple of days later, but I do remember none of us were willing to step on the prints themselves and chose to step over them like the cracks on a sidewalk. Sheesh.